I'm so excited. I am
well spoken.
ecstatic. Jennifer Hill, Mama Swan herself, is back in the studio. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe how amazing and successful Swan Day has been. You're 12 years?
12 years. It's our 12th year.
Years, and you keep going on stronger and stronger each year.
Yep, we keep going. And now we're getting some momentum with the help of, the women's movement and everything else. So I think it's going to be a really amazing year this year. That's for sure.
So. I mean, I was listening to XM radio the other day, and they do talk. They have a channel just for music, and it's all talk about music. And they were talking about how things have changed so much since even like the turn of the millennium.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just in the past 12 years of watching Swan, things have changed. How do you see it? Is it minimal for you?
Well, as far as music, you mean? How has it changed?
The industry-wide and how hard it is for women to be successful?
I don't think anything really has changed yet for it to be easier. I think right now there's a lot of, putting up, like, I'm going to help women, and that being sort of advertised, but it's not always necessarily backed up yet. Mm-hmm. So it has to now just not become only a fad. It actually has to then have some sort of movement behind it. Yeah. So I'm finding that at least with us this year, we're getting a lot more people interested in asking us questions, whereas before we were bringing those issues to those people and they didn't want to even respond. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to see that. But through the past 12 years of Swan, I definitely have seen that, at least with what I've done in Connecticut. And then later on, I mean, if you want to, we can talk about the International Swan as a movement. I know that we've done a lot of work for women in the arts, and I know personally from watching what's gone on with the Connecticut Music Awards, the New England Music Awards, all the awards that kind of have to do with our area, that swans are almost 100% of the women that are winning those awards. And before that, it was very, as far as I'm saying, for the women. Mm-hmm. And before that, there weren't even any women winning those awards. Oh. Maybe there would be one. In 2009, I won the Best Female Vocalist category at the Grand Band Slam, which then became the Connecticut Music Awards. And after that, they took away the Best Female Vocalist category. And that was the only category. Yeah, that was the...
Why?
I don't know. It was the only category women actually could fight against, because at that time, all the bands that were being, constantly played over and over again were all male bands. So you couldn't win, best guitarist. You couldn't win any of those things. Like, you had to only go for, and every single girl band went for best female vocalist. And when that went away, it was like, okay, now we're completely erased.
In a way, is that kind of like being treated fairly, though?
Well, no, we weren't being treated fairly.
When you eliminate the segregation?
Well, I think no, because in that sort of situation, it went from the women having at least one thing we could fight for to nothing we could fight for. Yeah. And after that happened, you saw really no one as a female winning the number one spot. They might be in 2 and 3, but nobody was winning the exact award. And then we started to do an actual music award sort of thing. But I was doing all of this with Swan. And I was watching the people from those places come to my event to find the women to nominate. So Swan has really become that place. This is where you find the next generation of amazing females.
All my music for this show is I go to Swan. I'm like, last year for the first time I saw Audio Jane play, and they were amazing. I was like blown away. Yes. I've been playing them all year since then.
Well, I mean, for myself, it's one of those things where I'm also a vocal coach. I'm very interested with voices to the point where I think my family gets a little annoyed. I'm like, oh, listen to that person on TV. I can tell that they're not using their tongue fully in the front of their, like, whatever. So when I'm picking bands, I'm really listening to female voices, and I'm really listening to what is accompanying them. So it's got a lot to do with my ear, a lot to do with what I've learned technically and professionally. And I've found there's so many women out in this state and around where we are that are so talented that they shouldn't just be here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think myself included, I think we shouldn't just be here.
Right.
We should be everywhere.
Yep.
And we've been working really hard for people to know more about us. And hopefully this year, with the fact that there is more, more focus on women in the arts, that we will finally get that.
I've always been amazed that each year you send new swans down to come to the studio and be interviewed. And every once in a while, you throw in one, I'm like, that doesn't really fit my style of music I usually play.
Uh-huh.
But then I'm blown away every single time. This year, Natalie Hamilton.
Oh, yeah?
I'm like, when I first listened to her music, I'm like, yeah, I don't play. Maybe on Arthur's show.
Because she's very jazz.
Yeah. And piano based. And I'm like, she came down here and I listened more to her music more closely. And I was just blown away.
Yeah, you listen to her as a person,
Yes.
Where that's coming from. Mm-hmm.
So talented and so much thought and energy she puts into her music and into her lyrics. And it's just, I love it.
I think that's what gets me too. When I see artists that are really telling their story or they're really out there, that resonates with me. So I'm like, okay, let's get this girl on here. Eliza and the Organics, I'm really excited to see. That was, sometimes people will tell me about people. Mm-hmm. So Canyon told me about That Virginia. Apparently That Virginia kept, and now she's my bassist. Apparently she kept trying to message me and I wasn't getting them. I don't know if she sent it to the wrong thing. I don't know what happened, but since she wasn't in my contact list, it just ended up getting missed. So Canyon was like, hey, Jen, this girl's been trying to get in touch with you. So I listened to her and I was like, okay, and I put her on. And it's so That Virginia came to me, and she was like, I think you need to listen to Eliza and the Organics. Like, they are from Connecticut, but they're in Brooklyn, but, and I mean, it doesn't have to only be Connecticut at this point, because I feel like...
I've held back so many times, because I thought, at least in the beginning, I thought you told me that they had to be Connecticut.
Well, that's how it kind of started, but then as you see, it's been evolving. New York really likes to come and play. So we've had New York coming Patty Rothberg comes from New York. Yeah. June Millington came from up in Massachusetts. We've got 2 bands from Brooklyn this year. So they're hearing about it. And they're like, let me go.
I'm giving you a long list next year.
Okay, good.
I just love going out throughout New England and in the whole region and just listening to new bands. There's so many talent.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't help it that I just love the female voice. I mean, It's just one of those things to begin with. I love voices anyway, but when I'm looking and I get all these people sending me stuff, it's fun, but then it gets to be hard, and I have to put them in categories.
How difficult is it? I mean, you must get many submissions for people who want to play at Swan. How difficult is it to weed them out and try to get representations from different genres?
Well, I mean, I have to start, I have to listen to a song, then I have to listen to a song live, so I have to see, a live performance. Mm-hmm. So from there, I kind of start some categories, and I'm like, all right, I really like this band, and I would maybe call this band this, because, I mean, it's so hard to give categories to bands, genres anyway.
Do you feel guilty giving them labels, too?
Yes, but sometimes I tell them the label, and they're like, can I use that? And I'm like, totally. Yeah. Someone just called us a dark cabaret pop act. But with, what did they say, Nirvana influence, with the rage of Nirvana, and I was like, can I use that? Because, that's me.
That is awesome.
I kind of do that, and then if I end up with 2 I really like, I might put them both on, but in a different room, or I might write to one and say, listen, I really, really like you, but I'm going to put somebody that's, I already had somebody like you. So next year, I definitely want you to be on the show. So I already have lists I already start for next year. Mm-hmm. So there never is really a whole open space.
Or keep them on a waiting list.
Yeah, I put them on the side.
Somebody dropped out and then Princess Randolina came in.
Yep,
right?
Yep. And then we lost somebody else and Lisa Lawrence came in.
Awesome.
So, I mean, it's one of those things I'm always like, just wait, because you never know. And Princess Randolina got in and I was like, oh, so tomorrow do you want to go on air? So you don't know what might happen.
That was awesome. I walked in here, I was expecting Natalie Hamilton, and I see these other people sitting in the corner. I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? Are you backing up Natalie?
Yeah, because someone else was supposed to come with Natalie, and then that didn't happen, and things got, jumbled, and yeah, that's the cool thing about it. And I mean, then Swan just becomes one of those things. I mean, look, Virginia's my bassist, so we sort of start to help each other out, and maybe we like each other's music, so we want to do something with each other.
You've built such an amazing network now, too, so you can rely on your swans to give other recommendations and stuff. That's great.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Plus, we have a lot of good guys around, too.
There's a couple.
Right,
Bob?
No.
Bob, and I mean,
the highlight of every year is coming down to see you, Bob.
Yes, well, I feel the same, Mark.
We have a beer together, and it's wonderful.
I love that part.
We have a bro fest.
That's right.
It is true, though. I mean, we talk about it. Some of the husbands that have been in it for a long time, DJ Breakadon, her husband, is always there, and she's, I don't know, is this like her 5th year in a row? She's been doing the DJ, which I love watching her on stage in between the acts. Like, you ever catch her when all of a sudden she's like really getting into it? Because she plays the music so that people don't get, bored in between watching the stage change. And then at the end of the night, she does the on-stage dance party. So, at the end, that's where we get out all of our pent-up energy from the night. But she's awesome to watch. And so her husband's always there. And there's just certain guys, and we kind of call it like, like the significant other crew. And they all help out, and they all, do things if we need stuff. And
well, we get the list of things to help out with, but it ends up turning into a drink fest.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point.
It is a bro fest.
And there's always a lot of weird stuff we have to, ask them for. Like, can you go find a roll of toilet paper for the girls' bathroom? Or somebody needs a chair so they can stand up on and paint somebody over there. Yeah.
At least we have a purpose. It's like one of those futuristic shows where women dominate the world and men are slaves.
Kind of. Not really. We don't have, whips or anything. We could.
That's for the 13th year.
Lucky number 13. I haven't thought about that. You put something in my head.
Uh-oh.
Great.
I love the podcast you've been doing.
Thanks.
Or you've been doing it with, or someone else is doing it and you've been...
So, yeah, that's with Sarah.
On, right?
So, Sarah is...
Demio?
Yeah, she's from Hell's Bells Productions. And actually, her and I have been working together for 9 years now.
Oh, wow.
She decided to do the first documentary on Swan. And I was, my 3rd year of Swan? And it was the first time I had, a venue totally do so many horrible, mean things to me. And she filmed so many things that I would be like, don't film that. Don't film that. Because I was afraid, I didn't, you don't want to get yourself blacklisted places because, all sorts of stuff. And she sent that film to Women Arts. And that actually is how I started getting funding. Because they were like, so we watched the video. We watched all the horrible things that happened while you were just trying to put together a festival. So we'd like to help you a little bit. So she started doing the Faded Out podcast, which is a true crime podcast that she does. She did the disappearance of Johnny Gosh. And she got, it was really crazy. She's gotten over 100,000 downloads.
Wow.
And so it's like you said, everyone evolves. So she figured out being a videographer was not my thing. Mm-hmm. I'm actually a podcaster. So she was like, I started this podcast. Now I have this idea to do a Swan cast. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah. So,
yeah.
I go on as much as I can, but we always decide the shows together. She'll call me and say, who should we have on? What should we talk about? And we'll just have different people on. And it's kind of cool because I've learned things about some of the swans I had never knew. Mm-hmm. You can go on and it'll be a whole entire one about Vivian LaFlame. And you can hear about how she decided to get into burlesque and stuff like that.
Does it just feature Swan Artists or is it more broad?
It's mostly Swan Artists because there's so many of us. Yeah. We haven't even gotten everybody on yet. We would branch out, if there's people that want to come on and talk with us with some of the things we've been doing. But we talk about different subjects. We went on and we talked right before the Kavanaugh hearing. Oh. We went in and we talked about, after that, we've gone in and talked about venues being unfair to artists and what we need to do. We do a lot of call to action we don't know who's actually listening, but we figure eventually,
Eventually.
people will. So
Nobody's going to hear you if you're quiet about it.
nope.
So you got to speak up.
Yep.
Speaking out, are you going to play a song for us?
Sure.
I can't wait to hear the debut of Jennifer Hill on ukulele.
Yes, that's the thing. Okay, this is the debut of me on ukulele. So, for any listeners out there, I generally play the piano, and I have been playing it for a very long time now. And I decided to buy this ukulele. This actually is my gift from Swan from last year.
Oh, wow.
So every year after I'm done with Swan and I've done so many crazy things, I usually buy myself one thing. And I decided to buy myself this ukulele.
That's no cheap ukulele. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It's got
You can even plug it in.
pretty waves. It plugs in. It's a Luna. It's got a... That's pretty much me as the moon. See, I have my moon.
Oh, I love the moon.
So this is me and Virginia. Virginia and I are tattooed together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the only person I have a tattoo with.
Bob. Bob, there's a place right down the street.
But that's like the sisterhood of Swan, you know what I mean? Like, it was one of those things where I didn't have to worry about breaking up with someone, so it was okay that we got a tattoo together.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to break up.
No.
Okay, so this is one of my songs that I usually do that maybe, I don't know if you're going to play it later. It's Wannabe.
Oh, yeah.
Wanna be that girl with the sun shining on my face, without a care in the world. And I wanna stop this horrid spout, this darkness falling from my mouth, I just can't contain. But the crazy in me is beautiful with you. It's beautiful with you. And you're beautiful for me too. Take away this crazy, I'm beautiful in you. I'm beautiful with you. And you're beautiful. Wanna feel that heat, like the moment we'd meet in the sun, and everything was fun in the sand. And you look into my eyes with love's disguise, the only thing on your face. But the crazy in me is beautiful with you. It's beautiful with you. And you're beautiful for me too. Take away this crazy, I'm beautiful in you. I'm beautiful in you. And you're beautiful. Take away this crazy, I'm beautiful in you. I'm beautiful in you. And you're beautiful for me too. Take away this crazy, I'm beautiful with you. I'm beautiful with you. And you're beautiful. Did it!
Flawlessly.
I'm surprised.
Oh, man, you're just so talented. That was wonderful.
Thank you. I've just started this little ukulele journey, so.
It's amazing what just a tiny little instrument like that can do. You don't need like a whole band sometimes to get the point across of a song.
What are you saying?
Sometimes you don't need drums, you know? But
that's why we got the Cajon.
Yeah.
I love the Cajon. It's just so simple. It makes a good resonating beat to it.
That was his wedding present.
Oh, get out, really?
Yeah.
You got some Cajons.
Hey, I gave you some Cajons.
Snip, snip.
Jennifer Hill in Company. Not Company anymore.
Murderous Chanteuse.
So tell me about Murderous Chanteuse.
Well, I mean, Murderous Chanteuse, I was kind of trying just to get away from Jennifer Hill for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe the name Jennifer Hill as well. Because it was just so considered to be this indie rock sort of, I got the Fiona Apple of Connecticut sort of stamp on there for quite a bit, and I wanted to change that, so I wanted to kind of just change the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of electronic sort of sound in there. There's a lot of my sort of guilty pleasure stuff that I liked before that I never really focused on as much. So that's where I got to add in the more Bjork aspect and Madonna. And, you know, it's funny because I look at my lyrics and I think that I kind of write matter-of-factly like Madonna. But in my head, I hear all these crazy like things that are put together like Bjork. So, you know what I mean? There's like these differences. And for the past like 2 years, we've been playing with Jeff in Virginia. And Jeff really can pull out that like synth sort of sound and the kind of like ethereal stuff that I want to do when he's not on the cello. But then when he is on the cello, you know, he pulls back that indie sort of sound that we have, but then we still have the other lines. I don't know, it just kind of like makes it a different thing. But it's, you know, it's still me, so there's still that common thread. I can't get away from how I write. So.
And you're constantly evolving as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's great to see what you're doing right now.
Yeah, thanks.
So, you want to tell me a little bit about Wannabe and what it's about?
Wannabe is about, well, it's about the fact that I am not always that easy to deal with.
No.
Because
you're the easiest person to deal with.
I have different things going on. I have, you know, PTSD that I have to deal with, and times of stress I get really out of control, which my husband's been dealing with actually lately, because we have a big event coming up. And I wrote that song about us and about how even though I'm crazy, we're beautiful together.
I think you are.
So I don't want to get all
gotta give
crazy,
Bob credit for just, you know, I don't want to say like putting up with you.
No, I know.
But I'm sure you've been through so much, you know, read about your past, and it's got to be difficult at times for you as a couple, right?
Yes.
Ups and downs.
I'll let you do that for people.
But she's so worth it, isn't she?
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, even taking it to a different aspect, it's definitely a different dynamic when you're in a band with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, where typically you could split that up, you know, in a relationship if you weren't, obviously, with your spouse. But
often it doesn't work, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, we have different musical ideas about things, and, you know, to actually pull those two apart. It gets
He's Guns N' Roses and I'm Madonna.
Are you able to like flip a switch and just like turn off, you know, husband mode and go to band mode, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
once the first song starts.
Yeah, the minute the first song starts. Yeah. Yeah, you don't really think about that. You know, I think where it comes into play a lot is writing. Mm-hmm. You know, when we have different musical ideas and tastes and things along that lines, we don't want to step on each other's feet.
Right.
You know, and when we do, you know, I hate to say it, sometimes it'll come out of practice, you know, and become something we discuss outside of practice. But, you know, it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
So.
You find that.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what counts.
Yeah, he's my longest running band member. Because we were in the band together before we got married. That's how we met each other.
Yeah,
so.
I met Jen on Craigslist.
Yeah.
Get out.
When I moved here, I moved from California 10 years ago-ish, and I landed, and I was like, well, do I find a job or a band? So I jumped on Craigslist looking for a band, and I met Jen.
I had a gig in New York City, and my drummer just canceled, and my manager went online, and he found Bob.
Hey, I just checked out Craigslist. Here's a drummer.
Yeah, pretty much.
And here you are today.
Yes.
Yep.
So, Jennifer, I'm sure there's plenty of people listening who have no idea what we're talking about swans. They think there's going to be a flock of birds coming in.
Yeah, let's tell them what it actually is.
Support women artists now.
Okay.
About time, right?
Yes. Well, Swan Day, okay, like you said, stands for Support Women Artists Now. And it is in Connecticut, it's a music and arts event to empower and uplift and amplify women in the arts. So this is the most talented women in this state, their bands, their art, their dancing, their fashion, all coming to you in one night so that you can see, what this area has to offer and how many talented people we have in it. The interesting thing is I'm always like, local musicians and local artists. But then when you start to read about their story and what everyone's doing, these are just local people because we live here. Mm-hmm. We're not locally just doing what we're doing, And when I talk about the impact of Swan and the people that have been there, you were just telling me you saw one of my swans performing in New Orleans. Yeah. And probably in a pretty prestigious burlesque show because it's not so easy to be, one of the featured burlesque artists in New Orleans because there's a lot of women going out there.
A lot of competition down there.
Yeah. And she was with us for 5 years. We're talking about Nikki LaVillain. Give her a little promo. She was our first ever swan, and that did a burlesque act at the first ever swan show. We also have one of our artists who was our poster artist. She also is the infamous person who made Miley Cyrus's pasties.
Get out.
So when we were watching Miley Cyrus kind of, going through that crazy phase and wearing the ice cream pasties, those were made by Jen Jacobs of Bad Bunny, who is a swan and has been a swan for the past 7 years. And then they actually had her make more for the tour.
Oh, wow.
So, she's doing things for pretty famous people. Those things keep happening. I keep seeing that, swans are doing more and more. And Swan as a mission is actually a global thing. So this October, I flew out to Milwaukee, and I got to meet all the swans all over the world who have been putting on these shows.
Wow.
Everyone's is different. I have the only music and arts festival. A lot of the other ones are dedicated towards theater, or they might be all art-based with lots of gallery sort of things where they have to, do specific things in order to be in the show. Like they'll have, parameters that they have to follow for their artwork. And we're all different, and we got together and we talked about what we needed to do to empower women artists all over the world, and it's the same thing. It's giving them visibility, it's amplifying their presence, and it's giving them recognition for the work that they've done and not just making it smaller. And those things are slowly starting to change the climate of everything that we're doing. So that's what Swan is. It's a mission. So for me, I live this every single day. I'm always like, oh, who can I connect with this? Or what can I do with this? And a lot of the swans have started to live that way. And if more of us do, then we're going to do big, huge, amazing things together.
It's going to grow exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Yeah, that internationally. So, did you say in the United States you're just the only one that's doing music and festival?
Music and arts. So there's a lot like in New York City. I know that there's a Swan Festival, and it's mostly based around theater and film because this started from the women that were doing FF2 media. That's female forward media. It's females in film. And actually, this was their first year that they got invited to the Oscars. So I saw one of my swans on the red carpet at the Oscars, and we were so excited that finally, and the woman that runs FF2 Media is the other half of women arts who put together the whole entire idea of a swan holiday.
Wow.
So a swan holiday is, if you want to figure out how to uplift and amplify women artists in your area, you would then put on your own event. And then in order to do that, you have to fundraise this and that and go along with the mission of Swan. And I found out about the mission when it first started in 2007. So myself, Miami, and Kenya, we are the longest running Swan events that there are.
Amazing.
We're the OGs.
And that's sad in a way that that's only the three of you.
Yeah, the first year,
more.
only 3 people started one. I
Because
know.
when you hear that it's an international event, you expect more to be involved. And we got to get more people involved.
But now we're
In
up to
fact-
700. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm saying,
Good.
so we started it, but, I got to meet Bulgaria, I got to meet Swan Milwaukee, I got to meet Swan, there's one in Chicago. We all got together, and we're like, whoa, there's a lot more of us than we thought. So now how do we triple this?
And that's great that you're all getting together at a conference to get on the same page and use, like you were just saying, the words.
Uplift and amplify,
yes.
And give
Whenever you get
recognition
together, you got to use all the same consistency.
Yeah.
So we're all on the same page. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
It was pretty empowering and powerful. I'd call Bob I can't believe the people I'm talking to and the stuff they go through.
I mean, before that, did you kind of feel like maybe you're a little bit alone in a little bubble? But then going there, you're like, no, you're not alone.
Yes, I did. And you know what's funny, though, is I've been talking to Swan de Kenya for 10 years because I have insomnia. So in the middle of the night, the only person that would be up was Swan Kenya, or different things. We would find each other at weird hours of the night. So we had these ideas of doing songs with each other. So I would record something and send it to her, and then she would be like, I'm having an issue, I'm not allowed to go into the studio. And so I learned a lot about what she dealt with in Africa for women actually coming together. And I guess they used a different name. They had to prove that they weren't actually coming together to do something against people.
Oh.
They weren't organizing in a way. They had to prove it was for women in the arts. So they had a lot of political things they had to go through. Yeah. And watching their struggle and seeing that it was easier for me to get my stuff off the ground made me, I think, get through some of the struggles a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But then now talking to each other and being able to be sisters with each other, we lean on each other sometimes if we have to. To be like, hey, I can't get this. Can you maybe do this for me? Because no one will listen to me.
Mm-hmm. It's good to have that support. I was reading some of the statistics in something you said. Alarming but not surprising statistics. Only 22% of musicians are women. Only 2% of music producers are women.
Well, they're saying are. They're saying that's what they're giving us, but that's not the truth. That's what you're giving us. Only 2% are not. Where there's more than 2%.
Only 2% are visible.
Yes, only 2% are visible or getting work. Because no one ever said to me, go take your music to a woman producer. I never was told that. It was like, all right, this guy is really good at it. This guy will mix and master you. This guy will. So now I'm finding a bunch of women producers like Female Frequency. Female Frequency is going to be at Swan because Danny, who's from Primitive Heart, is part of that. And they are all women producers. And so when they do their songs, it all the way goes through. Anybody that touches that song is a female.
Cool.
And some women are starting to do that just so, not because we don't think that other people can't do it, just so we can change those numbers.
Yeah. We've got to. I mean, I think this also the event is also showing that women are capable, they're empowered, and a force to be reckoned with. Are you giving them encouragement to take an interest? I mean, people in general that are coming to Swan and that are hearing about Swan.
What do you mean?
It's not just trying to support women in one day.
Oh, yeah.
Just to give them a little bit of attention. It needs to be all the time.
Oh,
They need to be taken seriously as anyone else.
Well, I think if you follow anything of mine, like if you follow my pages, my Instagram, every day I'm putting that out there. So that if you do go to Swan and you decide from there to follow my Instagram or something like that, or follow one of the Swan's Instagrams, We do try to keep that going all the time. To me, it's never a thought. I'm just constantly like, I'll see something and repost it, or I'll see something of another girl's and I'm like, whoa, that's really cool that she's doing that. And I'll see that there's like 1 like on it, so I'll go repost it through Swan or something like that, you know, just so that I can help too.
Absolutely.
And I hope everybody does the same thing. You know, you see somebody's gonna do something, please repost it. Everybody repost Swan Day, Connecticut, because then you can help like 50 female artists at once instead of just one.
Absolutely. I will do my part. I promise.
Thank you.
Personal interests: singing, changing the world, sticking up for the quiet, girl power, roller skating, writing piano.
Where are you reading this?
Being a mom, dancing like a fool. You just amaze me. You can do it all. Do you and Bob ever get to like dance in the kitchen together?
Sometimes. Bob dances with the dog more than with me.
Keep the dog entertained, you know.
Our dog is really big. She likes to dance with Bob for some
And get
strange
into
reason.
trouble.
But no, we do. We have a funny family, so sometimes the whole house is like doing something weird. Like all singing in one note and staring at the dog to make her crazy. and,
my goodness.
and we're doing it like all in harmony. Yeah, you know, get a bunch of musicians together.
I meant to mention this earlier, but this is the 3rd year that you're at Trinity on Main?
Is this our 3rd or 4th?
Or 4th? It's been a while now. It's like,
This is our 4th.
I know in the beginning you were like jumping around and
Yeah.
I heard that there was a lot of horror stories that you had to put up with.
Well, lots of horror stories, but then if you look, like almost every single one of them closed down. So it's like, that would also be a problem.
And
So-
I guess in the beginning, before you really had the notoriety of what you're doing and getting the popularity, kind of take whatever you can get too, right?
Well, we just dealt with a lot of unscrupulous venue owners, unfortunately. They broke contracts. We had the whole entire sound system locked away from us after we paid for it. They wouldn't let us use it. And I asked him why, and he said right to my face, no one wants you here. Like, no one wants an all-female festival. Like, no one's here. And I was like, first of all, there are a lot of people here. Second of all, this has nothing to do with you because I rented your building. So who cares if not even anyone comes here?